at 4 species, and we're going to see which of these factors are affecting their conservation status. So we're going to start in the Everglades agricultural area, where lots of runoff, from these farms includes things like nitrogen and phosphorus, mercury, and DDT. Who remembers where nitrogen and phosphorus might come from in agriculture? From fertilizer use, yep. And then you have excess, huh?
From Russia.
From Russia. Excess fertilizers will run off and then create a process in the water called eutrophication, which I think we should definitely review, right? Eutrophication. Okay. And mercury, also a big one. What about DDT? Anyone remember what DDT was for?
Like bugs?
Yeah, it was an insecticide, so especially killed mosquitoes. Really helped combat malaria and other mosquito-borne illnesses, but also affected ecosystems. As the DDT moves up the food chain, the concentration increases, creating some biomagnification. So our first species is the dusky seaside sparrow. You can see their range just on the east side of Florida here. This subspecies only lived kind of right in this stretch right here. And in the 1940s, there was lots of DDT applied, and number of breeding pairs dropped from 2,000 to 600. Yeah.
Wait, so what am I putting in these boxes?
So we're going to do an X for each of the factors that affected their conservation status. They also suffered some habitat loss and flooding of the nesting grounds. So let's look at our IUCN factors. Which ones do we think?
Gotta be habitat quality.
Quality of habitat. What else?
Population size.
Population size was a big one.
Geographic range.
Yeah, if you remember looking at that original slide, where in the country can we find them?
On the East Coast.
On all of the East Coast?
No.
On the east coast of Florida only was this subspecies, right?
Wait, are we looking at only the winter parts?
Huh? Just the nigrosins. Yeah.
What? What is it? Okay.
Well, I guess, yeah, because, yeah, just there. It's like a different subspecies up here.
I see.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, geographic range, and then also reproduction, right? As the DDT was applied there, and then as flooding too. In 1979, there were only 6 left.
What?
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, as you can guess, they did not make it. That subspecies is extinct. There still are other seaside sparrows. Next topic is quantity of water. So in the 1960s, there was 4 years where there was no water in Everglades National Park. In the 1970s, they had minimum flow. And then there was the Everglades Expansion and Protection Act. Again, you can see, right, like the distribution, the quantity of water. So our case study here is the snail kite. They feed almost entirely on apple snails. And they catch those by foraging over shallow water up to 6 inches deep. So as you lose that water, or if you get too much water, right, they can't catch snails if the water is too deep. Which of these factors is affecting snail kites? Trophic level?
Degree of specialization.
And definitely degree of specialization, yeah. Since they're only eating those snails. You might include quality of habitat here, as their habitat is flooded or dried out. That would affect their habitat quality. Here's just some pictures of snail kites doing their thing. Here's their mating, which is really cool little. And then, yeah, eating the snail. their bills, we talked about how specialized they are. That's why their bill is so curved, so it can get into the curved snail shell.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, next example will be distribution. So historically, the water was pretty evenly spread out, but now they do like lots of water in one area, less water in another area. And that distribution really affects the Cape Sable subspecies of seaside sparrow. And you can just write SESP for seaside sparrow if you want. It's that common four-letter use. So these guys live almost entirely within Everglades National Park, and they nest only a few inches up to a foot off the ground, and are the only freshwater seaside sparrow. But because of the distribution of the water, right? We get some water in channels and some water not in channels. There's more flooding, and so populations were greatly affected. You can see like 50% reductions in 17 or so years. So which factors?
Specialized geographic.
Yeah, maybe where they nest is a factor here. Their reproduction was definitely affected. I mean, you can see how all of these sort of play into each other too, right? The population size is also smaller because the reproduction was not very successful. Their geographic range is incredibly limited, only living in Everglades National Park. Questions? Okay, our last one is on the timing. So what time of year the water is flowing around. And our last example is a wood stork.
Kind of scary.
Historically, there would have been 6,000 breeding storks, and they're tactile feeders, so they actually use like touch to feed. They rely on evaporating pools to concentrate fish, and then they just like swipe their beak around in the water, and when they feel a fish, they snap it up in their beak. Yeah. So here they are eating and nesting. A lot of large water birds actually nest on the tops of trees, like great blue herons do that too, which I was so shocked when I first saw a heron in a tree. There was a 90% reduction in breeding population. Question?
Were these the ones that you saw from the,
Those were cranes. Yeah. These are the ones that bring the babies, storks. You know the image of the baby and the carried by the, yeah, okay.
that's what they
Anyway, really large reduction in the breeding population, and their nesting is been changing. The issue is that the rains and the flooding is happening at a different time than the chicks are fledging, so they're not able to feed their babies as well as before. So which factors here? Reduction, yep.
degree of specialization.
Specialization, right? You having to only get the food in that one way is really affecting them there.
Population size.
Yep.
Quality of habitat.
Their quality of habitat, great.
So, Caleb, I have a question. In this scenario, what does distribution mean? Like how?
In this one? Yeah, so remember the original scenario was all of the water sort of all over the place.
Does the distribution have to do with the species or?
The distribution just affects the Cape Sable seaside sparrow is my example for distribution, because they get flooded out since the water is concentrated in certain areas, if that makes sense.
So is it the distribution of like environmental factors? What is being distributed?
Oh, in there. Oh, yes. That would be like their distribution across the landscape.
Okay.
Yeah. So especially species with large habitats, snow leopards are really, really spread out, so finding a mate becomes harder in that case. Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah,
Great.
they just like, do snow leopards just like settle for the first thing they can find?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
So as of 2005, they acquired half the land. There was an extension on reductions in phosphorus. Congress has been a little bit slow on funding. The environmental priority was questionable. I remember when I was doing this research, about the only progress I'd seen was that they built a center for invasive plants or something, and not much else. So I was like, oh, great job, guys. You built a building. Very proud of you. And as climate change happens, sea level rise becomes a very dire situation. Here's what would happen if all the ice were to melt. You can see basically it's gone. But that's why habitats like mangroves are super important, because they provide natural buffers to flood sea level rise. So anyway, there's our 4 examples. And if we restore the habitat for those species, we might also protect all of the other species there. Questions, comments?